Hello and welcome, everyone. I am so glad you're here. I am very excited for our speaker today. We're going to talk on a very popular topic, y'all. And I know you have a lot of questions, and we are so looking forward to hearing them. And feel free to drop them in the chat at any point. You've pre-submitted your questions. We're going to go all over that in just a moment. I'm Hunter. My pronouns are he, they, and I'm very grateful to be here. And we have just a little bit of housekeeping first. Know that you can participate. You can turn on your cameras, and it's a great way for Lorraine and I to get a name to a face when you're asking your questions. Know that we are recording this, and you can go to @Power2Fly Chat and Learns on our YouTube channel, and you will be able to see this chat. We're going to be sending out a follow-up link as well with some great resources and some exciting announcements. And also know that you could write in the chat at any point for your questions. You can also message me privately if you like. And that way, if you want to ask anything anonymously, you can do it that way as well. Also know you can follow us on all the things @Power2Fly, #Power2Fly. You can do that there. So there are so many great resources. Check that out. Okay, so I'm very excited to introduce Lorraine Lee. Lorraine, my middle name happens to be Lee, spelled the same way, so we share that.
Nice.
Lorraine is a top-rated virtual keynote speaker and a leader at the intersection of editorial and tech. She has more than 300,000 followers on LinkedIn. So listen to what she has to say. So, because she's clearly doing something right, and is passionate about teaching ambitious professionals how to stand out and to create more flexibility and visibility in their careers. Oh, the dream. Lorraine was named one of 2020's top virtual keynote speakers by ReadWrite. Today, she speaks to Fortune 500 companies, tech firms, top-ranked universities, nonprofits, and more. She brings 10 plus years of experience from companies including Prezi, LinkedIn, SlideShare, and is a LinkedIn learning instructor for multiple popular courses. Please give a digital round of applause to Lorraine Lee. Lorraine, welcome. How are you?
Thank you, Hunter. I'm great. I'm so excited to be here with all of you today.
So great to have you. So friends, how the next hour works, and if you're just joining us, I see some people coming in now. We have so many folks on this call today. This is so exciting. Lorraine and I were like powwowing how to do this because there's like so much to cover. So what we're going to do, friends, to start is we're going to start with our pre-submitted questions, but please do keep your questions coming in the chat, and Lorraine and I will both be keeping our eye out for that. And if you want to write in the chat too, where you're calling in from, we love to see these global calls. It's so exciting that we're all coming together here. It's so wonderful. So Lorraine, before we jump into questions, is there anything you'd like to do to sort of set the tone, intentions, anything about your bio that I missed? Where are you at today? Where are you calling in from?
Yeah, so I'm in San Francisco. Hi, everyone. Finally, we're seeing some sunny days. It has been raining like crazy the past few weeks on and off. So, great day to be here. I'll just add a little bit more about my experience with LinkedIn, Hunter. So I was an editor at LinkedIn for 6 years. As Hunter mentioned, I'm also a LinkedIn learning instructor, and I've been able to build my following to more than 300,000 people. And so I've really, I love the platform. I've really seen how powerful it can be, and I'm just so excited to dive into it with all of you today.
Awesome. So great. So, let's start with these pre-submitted questions. To kick us off, I love this question. Someone wrote, how should our LinkedIn profiles differentiate from our resumes? I think a lot of people and a lot of folks were like, oh, isn't it just a digital resume? Do I just slap everything on there? So
Yeah.
what's the difference, and how do we do that?
Yeah, so I think when LinkedIn first came out, it was kind of branded as your online digital resume. And I think, the way that we need to think about LinkedIn these days is that LinkedIn is really a landing page for our online brand. And so, yes, you're going to include whatever's on your resume, but there are also so many other things you can include, like recommendations from people, a video cover story, your summary about who you are, what you're passionate about. And so, it's really that place where people can go, they can learn everything they need to about you. And it's not just kind of dry, this is what I did at these jobs, but it's really about you as a whole professional.
I love that. And we're going to get into the details of like some of the all the different aspects that you just talked about. So you mentioned videos in there too, and someone asked, are short video resumes worth having on our profile? Is that something, is that a use of the video feature?
Yeah, I think what this person is referring to is a video cover story, which I think it's been out for a little bit of time now, but I think it's a less known feature. So if any of you go to someone's profile and then you see their profile picture kind of move for like 3 seconds or something, that's previewing their video cover story. And essentially, that is a feature that allows you to record a short video. So you have 30 seconds. So not a ton of time, but enough time to say, who you are, what you can offer, give a CTA. And I think it's such a wonderful way to help people get a feel for who you are. Because, LinkedIn, you're reading a lot of text, you're seeing a lot of things, and the video is just really a way for you to pop and for you to kind of show a little bit personality, let people see your face and you smiling and your voice and your tone and all of that. And so if you don't have a video cover story, highly recommend that you record one.
I love that, right? I mean, I feel like now more than ever with Reels and TikToks and stuff like that, we're used to little bite-sized videos. And it's nice to get us off of just text. And then you're like, oh, that's a real human. That's like,
Yeah,
this is a person I want to talk to, that I want to get to know, that I want to work with, right?
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. So let's talk about some strategies. You are a queen of LinkedIn strategy. So let's hear about this. So someone asked, how has a proper LinkedIn strategy impacted your professional development? So clearly with 300,000 plus followers,
Yeah.
there's been an evolution there that's probably changed your career in ways. I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for asking that. I think a big part of what gave me that following and what really grew my LinkedIn presence was creating content and creating relevant, timely content, things that were going to be interesting to a professional audience, areas of expertise, things that I was passionate about. And that consistency over the years is what helped build up that audience. And it's been a mix of short form posts, videos, newsletters, articles, so that's longer form content, um, posting like interviews I've done, sharing about, this power to fly chat and learn. So like building up my thought leadership and credibility by showing that I'm, speaking on various podcasts and things like that. And so really that content strategy, which was not a thing that existed on LinkedIn or it was like very early stages when I joined in 2013, I think it was, posting on LinkedIn was only open to LinkedIn influencers. And those were often like the Richard Bransons of the world, and then they slowly trickled out, opening it up to more people. And now everyone can post content. But I think really leaning into that and growing my brand, my visibility through content was a really significant way that I grew my brand. And of course, making sure my profile was perfect as well, so that when people came to my, online landing page, they could learn all about me.
I love that. I love that. So when like people are sorry if you hear my dog in the background, he's saying hello. Francis says hello, and he's on TikTok now. Save
Ah,
us all.
nice.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, you never know, something's gonna catch a wave. You make one video, no one watches it. I posted one video, almost 200,000 views.
Oh,
The internet's a
wow.
wild
Okay.
place.
Try
Yeah,
to
I
learn from
know, right? It's
Francis.
just like, yeah, Francis. Now, I doubt I'll ever get that, but it's good to have goals. But hopefully today we can learn about getting more of views on LinkedIn. So let's talk about wording of your profile. Someone asked, could you share some tips on how to write keyword optimized intros? And I'd like to pull back from this question a little bit. Can you
Yeah.
can you pick that question apart from me and maybe define some of that stuff?
Yeah, for sure. So you'll all see on your profile, you scroll down about halfway down the page, there's going to be an about section. And I think we have 2,200 characters for that section. So it's, it's a good amount of space there. And really the about section is going to be ideally not a regurgitation of your resume. It's going to be a place where you can tell a little bit more of your story, who you are, why you're in a certain industry. You can talk about, hobbies outside of work. I like to tell people, we're all still humans as well, not just, at work all the time. So it's okay to share some personal stories, why you do what you do. So I think this person is talking about, that about section. And the about section is going to be a really important piece of content on your profile because it allows you to be discoverable in search. So when you put in certain keywords, for example, you're looking for to be hired for a product marketing role, you're definitely going to want to include the phrase product marketing in your about section. And it just makes you more discoverable, more easily searchable on LinkedIn. So essentially, whatever it is that you want to be discovered for, look up keywords that appear very frequently in job listings, job postings. Find a way to incorporate those into your about. And I think that's what this person is referring to. So that's how you kind of optimize it, so to speak. And then also just make sure that you keep it genuine, personable, and again, not just a regurgitation of your resume.
That's so smart, right? Because we want to stand out. We want to show that like personal side of ourselves. And these are the little opportunities and some of the big opportunities that we can utilize on the platform.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier, ooh, gonna mute someone there. Okay, thank you. So you mentioned earlier in the early heyday of the influencers on LinkedIn that had like
Uh-huh.
different access to things and there was features that were only available to them.
Yeah.
And someone asked, is a brand different from being an influencer on LinkedIn? What type of content should we share depending? And someone said, and they also followed up, I don't always have something important of interest to share, which I can identify with because I think there's a motto of like always be putting something out, always be
Yeah.
creating new material. You're
Yeah.
like, well, it's just what if today's Wednesday and I don't got anything?
Yeah, well, I love this question. Okay, so let me start off with the part about, personal brand versus influencer. So I think those two things are separate. We all have a personal brand. Some people's will be stronger because you kind of know what you stand for. People know who you are. They know you're, a great person to work with and to collaborate with, and they know that you're an expert on X topic. That's going to be your personal brand. So it's a combination of who you are, how you convey who you are to the world, how the world sees you, and then the value you provide. So that's how I like to think about personal brands. Influencer, that's going to be someone who's like a public figure or someone with like tons of followers. That's someone who, you see on TV or in magazines or, just someone who's like a household name essentially. And we all have personal brands though. So you don't have to be an influencer. You don't have to want to be an influencer to post, to share your insights and expertise. And I think just remember, I know this person said they were a little unsure about what to post and they don't always have interesting things to say. And this is something I talk a lot about with my coaching clients is I think this is the biggest concern or thing that makes people nervous about LinkedIn is, oh, I don't know what to post. I'm not an expert in XYZ. I feel like an imposter posting, but really we all do have something interesting to say. It doesn't have to be such a lofty, game-changing idea. If you really if you are an expert in marketing, you might share some tips around marketing, or you might share an article that you read in a marketing magazine that you think would be useful to your network. Maybe you are an expert in communications, or you really love mentoring people and you have some knowledge about how to do that. It's really just you think about what you're passionate about and what you know about, what you've done before, combine those two together, and they're your posts. Just yeah, we all have something to say. It's just about kind of like digging deep and figuring out what that might be, and also getting past that mental hurdle of oh, I'm uncomfortable or a little bit nervous to put myself out there.
Yeah, that I completely identify with that. It can be easy to think I have nothing to say, but it's like, oh, I have my own sets of experiences, my own skills, and what
Mhm.
maybe easy for me might be completely new information for somebody else. And
Yeah,
that's
that's a
like the
great way to
thing.
put it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's like a constant reminder, I think, that I have to like for my own my own presence.
Yeah, yeah. That's such a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. So friends, please feel free to drop in the chat more questions. I'm just like burning through the ones that we have. We have plenty more, but if these conversations that we're having right now are like firing up those questions, please do drop them in the chat. We would love to hear from you live. Moving forward, we're talking about building this confidence in our personal brand on LinkedIn. How do you expand your network on this platform? Any tips for creating, for connecting with people without feeling pushy? Because none of us want to feel like we're spamming someone or getting, being annoying, any of that.
Yeah. Well, first things first, I would say definitely reach out to people who you don't know on LinkedIn. And I have met people, so many wonderful people on LinkedIn, and some of those have even translated to in-person meetings, which is really fun when that can happen. But yes, reaching out to LinkedIn, I mean, that's a big part of the power of LinkedIn is that you can expand your network and get exposed and connected to all these people who have interesting career trajectories to you or whose content you're interested in or following. And so I would say, one of the biggest things, and I actually made a post about this a few weeks ago because I was getting a lot of connection requests and there was just no message attached. So I had no idea who these people were, like how they found me, why they were connecting. And so the first thing I would say is always add a note to your connection request and just use a pretty simple format. I always just like to say, hi, Hunter, my name is Lorraine. I am, fill in the job title or just fill in, what you do. I saw your post about X, really trying to build up my expertise in the area, or that's an area of interest to me, would love to connect and follow your work. And just something really simple like that goes a long way. I pretty much anytime someone includes some sort of personalized message to me, I will accept it, even if I don't know who they are, just because it shows that there's some sort of connection there, that they're interested in something about me, and it's not just like a spam request. So that's what I would say is just definitely don't be afraid to reach out. I think you'll find that most people are very willing and open to accepting requests from people they don't know as long as you incorporate that message. And one thing I'll add to that is when I made that post, someone had asked, oh, but I don't have a premium account. I only have a certain number of in-mail credits. No problem. You can actually add just a few sentences without using your in-mail. So I actually pulled this up here just because it was such a thing that was happening. I just wanted to call it out. So on mobile, when you add a new connection request, you'll see like the three dots on their profile. So click that, and then you'll see this button here that says personalize invite. And so you click that, add your note, and then it will send the request with the note. And that does not use up any in-mail credits. On desktop, you'll just see the connect button. You click that. There will be a button that says add note, type in your request, and then it sends off again. Again, no in-mail credits used. So, whether you have premium or not, it's just anyone can send a customized message with their request.
I love that. Pro tips. Hello. Awesome. And now I love this, friends. Y'all are inspired. Y'all are asking a lot of questions in the chat now. So I want to pepper over some of these. What's also great, a shout out to an update in Zoom where people are liking and plus wanting comments here.
Oh,
That's
cool.
super
Okay.
great. I'm seeing that now for the first time. I was like, oh, how great. So that's
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah, that's super great here. So feel free to keep doing that, friends, because I love if you have the same question, you see it, plus one it. I love it. So Crystal asked a question that got plussed many times. And Crystal asked, if you have a proficiency in one industry and want to pivot to another, how can we diversify our profile messaging without looking disjointed or unfocused? Great question.
Yeah, that's a great one. I feel like that's probably a lot of people right now, especially in tech, where there's just so much craziness going on. But I would say using your headline and using your about section are going to be really key. And it's going to take a little bit of time to kind of, I don't know, like how disparate the two industries are that you're thinking that you're starting off in and wanting to end in. But, think through kind of that story. Are there underlying skills or like soft skills that need to be across both, or one particular thing about that job that carries through to the other job that made you realize, oh, this one, this new job is going to make a lot more sense for my passions. So think about the story first. And then on your LinkedIn, you can use your LinkedIn headline, you can use your about section, the content that you are posting about to really kind of help define that switch. So for example, in your headline, you might say, looking for a job in X, or you just put if you're moving from like data analytics to product management, you will just put product management in your headline and you'll show up for those searches. So that's something that you could do. Also, again, put it in the about section, and just, yeah, call it out. These are the spots where, it helps with the SEO, both within the LinkedIn ecosystem and then also on Google. So adding those keywords are really important. And then just thinking through that story and how you might want to present it.
I love that. On a similar topic, because you're talking about keywords here, Nathan from the chat asked, when sharing insights and thought, is it good to use hashtags? Using a lot of hashtags looks like you are more interested in getting fame than sharing an idea. How not to, yeah, so can you share about how hashtags, are they useful?
Yeah.
Do they look desperate? Is one person saying, what are your thoughts?
I don't know about desperate, but I say, I like to say, I'm not super enthusiastic about hashtags. I think the best practice is 3 to 5. Mix it up between a hashtag that's more general and then a hashtag that's more specific. You can search for specific hashtags in the search bar on LinkedIn, and you can see how many people are following a certain hashtag. So if you're trying to get that wider reach, a hashtag, very general hashtag like career, which is one I use a lot, will be good for you, for example. But maybe the person who just asked that other question, career transitions might be something that you follow. And so if you're talking about career transitions, you're going to want to use that more specific one to reach your target audience. So yes, too many hashtags I think is kind of annoying, and I don't think it does that much. 3 to 5 I think is kind of that sweet spot.
I love that. I love the little barometer of a number too. I made one for myself with emails. I
Okay.
am allowed one exclamation point in an entire email. That's my rule. If there's more than one,
Yeah.
I need to reword something.
Yeah.
So I'm always going back and rereading an email before I send it. I'm like, there's 3. Okay, 1 is permitted there.
Yeah, I go heavy on the exclamation marks too, and I also try to cut
Pull it
back every
back.
now and then. Yeah.
Yeah. These are great, friends. So keep these questions coming. We have about 35 minutes left. So please do feel free to keep those coming. Okay, so I'm going to go back over to our pre-submitted questions here. So we talked about the intros a bit. We talked about using the videos. Are there any other sections in which we can properly highlight our strengths? Someone asked.
Sure. A lot of different areas. So you might look at the skills section, for example. I like to say highlight 5 to 10, because chances are people aren't going to be scrolling down. You can add up to 50, but no one's going to be scrolling down that far. So 5 to 10 of your top that you really want people to see, that could be a good place to do that. Recommendations are also a really great place to call out your strengths. And one thing about recommendations that I would say is when you reach out to people asking for a recommendation, get really specific with what you want them to highlight. So don't just use a default LinkedIn message, name, are you open to writing me a recommendation? It should be, Hunter, are you willing to write me a recommendation about our time working on this project? It'd be helpful if you can highlight these skills, and how I did, and get specific with it. And that's going to be a really great place too. I think recommendations are amazing social proof, and just really add to your credibility as well. And of course, if they can talk to your skills, then even better.
I love that. It reminds me of the days of getting folks to write like a recommendation for college letters,
Oh,
if you
yeah.
did that
Yeah.
circuit at any point where you're like, these are the talking points. This would be great.
But I mean, it's like that's the way to do it, right? Because like you're asking a favor. It's like putting more, giving that person more work, and they're going to be thankful that you're giving them kind of an outline and a structure. Because if you keep it vague, it's like they can talk about anything, right? So
Yeah, and then you don't necessarily know what you're going to get, and maybe it won't be if you're pivoting, if you're or like, oh, that's not quite what I need
yeah,
right now, and then it's kind of a waste of everyone's time. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So let's see. So we're getting more great questions. Monica from the chat asked, so we're talking about all these different features. Monica was highlighting on the newsletter sign up offer, and she expresses that it feels glutted these days. What would
yeah.
be a less used feature to get uh, branded that is not saturated, aside from the 30-second videos that we talked about?
Sure. Sorry, was that like the LinkedIn newsletter feature?
Yes, I believe that's what they were referring to. Monica, if you want to clarify, you spoke about the newsletter sign up. It seems
Wasn't sure
overseas.
if you're talking about my newsletter here or
Oh, I don't
LinkedIn.
think so.
Okay, it looks
I
like it
think,
was is the LinkedIn newsletter. Yeah.
yeah, yes, LinkedIn one.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying, Monica.
Um, Yeah, so I mean, I think so. I'll just give a little bit overview of what LinkedIn newsletters are, just for people who are unfamiliar. So I actually worked on that product from an editorial side, and it's LinkedIn's first, newsletter product. And essentially, you're able to create a newsletter, and the benefit of it that's different from just posting an article is that people can subscribe to it, and so they get notified and they get an email anytime you publish a new article. So as I'm sure we all know, like we see our LinkedIn feed and there's just so much content. Sometimes you're like, oh, I can't find what I'm looking for. But the newsletter, that kind of notification feature helps with that. So I do think that newsletters break through the noise in that regard, Monica. But I think just short form posts are another great way to get out there. And not everyone is going to see every single one of your posts, but that's just another way that people can consume what you're posting. The more they like things, the more they comment on your posts, it's going to show up more frequently in their feed. So that's a good thing. And then I always like to say video content is a really great way to break through the noise. If you look on your feed right now, if everyone just goes over on LinkedIn really quick, you'll see there's not as much video. And that's because video is, not natural for most people. And I think it takes some practice and it can be kind of uncomfortable at first. But if you can practice and put in that time, I do think video is a really wonderful way to stand out.
I love that. Um, so speaking of standing out, someone asked, and we talked a bit about the skill assessment portion. Is that something that recruiters are using or to, for recognizing folks?
Yeah, I think so. I think when you go to a job posting and they say, "Oh, you have like 5 out of the 10 skills," they're matching it to what's on your profile. And so skills work well in that sense. I will say I'm not some like a heavy user of the skills feature just because every job posting is going to have, I mean, there's going to be some overlap, if you're looking for a specific type of role, but everyone's going to have their different type of skills that they're looking for. And you're going to have, you know, 3/4 for some jobs and half for some and 25% for others. So, what I like to say is just ideally, when you are applying to jobs, you have a referral within a company or someone who can pass your resume along and kind of bypass that initial screening that LinkedIn is doing for your resume. So I think, again, we talked earlier about kind of reaching out to strangers on LinkedIn. And I think, for informational interviews, for explaining you're interested in a role and you want to learn more about the company, I think people are usually, fairly willing to help. And at least in tech, people usually get a referral fee. So I think they're usually happy to pass your resume along. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, exactly. Like they want to find you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, friends, keep these questions coming. This is so great. So another question we had here was a pre-submitted question. How can you make an appealing LinkedIn profile to recruiters, the topic, when your work experience is limited? How much detail should you put under each role as well?
Yeah. Well, if your work experience is limited, I would try to put as much as you can under the work experience that you do have. Just remember when you are adding things to your LinkedIn to always try to make it as data driven as possible. So even if you don't have the data per se, like let's say you're a social media manager and you said, I manage our social media channels. You want to go a little bit more than that. So I manage our channels, posting, I don't know, 5 times a week for a total of, however, add up all the followers that the channels had at the time to an audience of 1 million. So just there are ways to kind of tweak the experience that you do have, even if it's not too much, but just try to always add that data piece as well. And also just think creatively too about what you've done in the past, even if it's not a typical 9 to 5 job. Maybe you volunteered or you did something on the side, like all of that is work experience as well. So just don't discount that as well.
I love that. Someone asked, when I see the job description, I feel like I'm qualified only 50% of the time. Should I still apply for that job or should I move on?
Hi, yes. I think yeah, I think apply because I think we're all our own harshest critics. And if you had all the qualifications for a job, that's not the job for you. That job is going to be too easy. You're not going to learn anything from it. You're not going to be challenged. So I think anytime you have at least some of the skills, some of the experience, the job looks interesting to you, I say go for it because a good hiring manager is going to want to hire someone who has done some of it, but who can also still grow in the position. Because if they hire you and you've done it all, you're going to be bored, you're going to leave. It's just going to be a waste of everyone's time, right? So apply, just, be confident in yourself, know that you are qualified, even if you don't have every single thing. And yeah, and good luck with it.
Love that. Someone asked, now that you are an experienced LinkedIn user, what are some things you wished you had done sooner to best optimize your experience?
Optimize my experience.
Yeah, or maybe your reach to people as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, I actually was like a very early adopter of LinkedIn. I was super into it. I felt that's like part of the reason why I got the job at LinkedIn.
yeah.
But let me think if there's something I could have done differently. I think I think starting to post earlier, honestly. I think I started posting content because I worked at LinkedIn. Um, and I didn't feel as and I was posting content kind of as a representative of and LinkedIn and the editorial team. But ever I left, and now I'm just posting my own general expertise, and I think just being able to do that and get comfortable getting out there, even if you don't have a ton of engagement. I mean, sometimes my posts don't get a lot of engagement, but I'll get messages from people who I haven't talked to in years who are like, Lorraine, I've been following your content, like love it. And I'm just like, oh wow, okay. So there's like a lot of quiet lurkers on LinkedIn who are looking at your stuff even if they're not engaging with it. But I think leaning into building your personal brand on LinkedIn, like Hunter mentioned earlier, like I really am passionate about helping professionals stand out and fast track career visibility and flexibility. And LinkedIn is just going to be a way that helps you with both, whether you are working in a typical corporate job or you're doing your own thing. I mean, it just benefits you in so many different ways, and it can open the door to so many opportunities, but you really need to be posting and just getting yourself out there.
I love that. And on topic, Francis is getting himself out there. He could not help himself but to say hello. Here he is. He was crying at the door. I see some other dog family members here on the call. So glad we could all be doing this. He's trying to get everyone to join his TikTok right now, but that's not the topic, honey. We're talking about LinkedIn, and I know you haven't even logged on to that yet. So someone asked, what is the best way to trigger or to announce that you're open for work?
So there's a few different ways. You can be quite literal and use the open to work, like what do you call it? Just like a photo filter on your profile picture. There's things on the back end as well. There's an open to work toggle. You can talk about how ready you are to jump into a new job. You can sign up for job alerts and kind of narrow down, based on keywords and location and things like that. So that's the very literal way. I think making a post about it is also a really great way to gain traction. And I don't know if this is because you were recently laid off or just because you're switching jobs or you quit your job. If you were laid off, I know a lot of people get kind of nervous about putting themselves out there. And I'll let you all know I was laid off for the first time in November, and I made a post about it. And I not only talked about, my reflections over the past few years, but also what I was looking forward to. And I feel like people really liked that positive perspective and it got a lot of visibility. And so if you can talk about, what you're looking forward to and what you hope for next, I think that's going to be a really great way to kind of let your network know what's happening. As they start liking it and commenting, their network is going to see it. And so you get a lot more visibility that way.
I love that. And it's, no one likes getting laid off.
Yeah.
It's no one's looking forward to that. But it's happening in mass numbers, as we know, and being able to talk about that openly and just to put yourself back out there, I think, it's a brave thing to do. And I think the
Yeah.
right people will respect that.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
People want to help. Yeah.
Exactly. And recruiters want that, finder's fee. So it's a win-win, everyone. It's a win-win. Okay, friends. Someone asked, I am actively looking for a new a new accountant executive role. How do I keep my engagement high on LinkedIn without that awful green banner?
Mhm. So I think, yeah, this person is talking about the open to work photo
Yeah,
filter there.
yeah.
So, what we've been talking about before, posting your own content is a super great way to stay active on the platform. One thing we didn't talk about as much yet is commenting on other people's posts.
Mm.
And commenting on other people's posts is a really wonderful way and kind of like more low stakes. I think people get less nervous doing that, but comment on other people's posts. You get seen by the poster. It helps you gain more visibility. Like I've gotten many followers and connection requests just from commenting. You can be more likely to meet, like-minded people or people who are interested in the same topic as you because you're commenting on certain posts. When you do decide to post yourself, commenting on other people's posts helps your own posts and the algorithm. So that's another thing to consider that I think is a little bit more low stakes and just a great way to kind of dip your toes into the posting world.
I love that. Candace asked in the chat and also got +1, +2 now. I'm going to +3 because I've been curious about this. I'm like, oh, thanks for reminding me of this question, Candace. What are your thoughts on having two LinkedIn profiles, i.e., if you have a sales background and the other side is a more creative field?
I would say to not have two profiles. I just think, you are even that's so cool that you have those two kind of sides to you, but like that is you as the individual, right? So I think there's a way to portray both on LinkedIn and actually like maybe in your headline, but just to combine it in a certain way that people are like, oh, this is super interesting that she does both things and let me learn more and dig in a little bit. One thing you might consider doing, which is what I've done for my personal brand, is I've created a company page for myself instead of a personal profile. So, for example, for the creative piece, if you're more like doing services, for example, that could be an alternative. But I do think, you know, both of these amazing qualities and traits and skills, like they're just for you as the individual. So keep it in one place and show it all off.
I love that. I feel like it's a mood shift from, let's say, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago or so, where I come from a creative background, but I also work in things like this. And for a while, I was like, oh, I had to have all these different websites, and it's important to have all this work showcased in different ways. But at the end of the day, like you said, it is just me doing these things. And I think there's a way to embrace that. And I feel like, especially over the past 5 years, I think a lot of people realize that we do a lot of different things, and that's okay,
Yeah, yeah. And it's amazing that you
Yeah.
do.
Thank you. Someone asked, how do you optimize receiving job alerts when they are posted? oftentimes when I receive alerts, it has already been posted for several weeks or even months.
Interesting. That might be a setting that you have to adjust in the job alerts section. I believe you can do daily, weekly, monthly, maybe even. I'm not sure, but I would check there first to see what might be going on because I think that's definitely um, way too delayed, and I don't think that's normal. So I think yeah, it might be a setting issue.
Great. Eunice asked a great question. I love this. Do you recommend posting about posting about looking for jobs, I assume, when you're currently employed and your network on LinkedIn includes coworkers, supervisors, HR? How to navigate that?
Yeah, I think that's a bit risky. I guess if you're willing to potentially get fired if they see that post and it's not going to affect you too much, then I think it's fine. But I think there is that risk that your company is going to see that and be upset with it. So I think what I would recommend is reaching out to your network on an individual basis and like using just letting them know that you want to catch up for a chat and just maybe aim for like 1 to 3 meetings a week and slowly that will grow to a large number, but just yeah, reaching out individually and just letting them know kind of quietly that you're open to it, I think is going to be the best tactic.
Oh, great. I love that. And someone asked a question that I'm going to ask,
Mhm.
and I'm going to ask another question in case you want to work on this in the background at any point. Someone asked, can you refer us to LinkedIn pages that are great examples of what a page should look like? If you know any off the top of your head, great. But if you want to think about that one for a minute,
Yeah.
obviously yours is a great page, I'm sure. So everyone check out
Yeah.
yours.
Yeah, I can name a few off the top of my head.
Yeah, great.
So I see by page, so they're just like a nuance. LinkedIn pages is usually like a company page, and
Huh.
I think this person's probably referring to profile. So yes, check out mine. You can scan this QR code. Some other people's I would recommend. My friend Diana YK Chan has a really great profile. She's a career coach. Um, Terry Rice. He works with entrepreneurs. He has a really great profile. William Aruda is a personal branding expert. He has a great profile as well. They all have, strong background photos, headlines, good profile images filled out. Joel Hansen, Joel, Joel Hansen is another great one to look at. So yeah, those are just a few that come to mind.
I love that. Thank you so much for that. We got some more questions coming in. We have about 15 minutes, friends, so keep them coming. Um, we had a question that says, there it goes. How do you tackle an employment gap? I left my last position to finish my MBA. I graduated last June and I took some time off for my mental health. So, time gaps, mental health, these are big
Yeah.
things that are, I think, a topic for a lot of people right now with the past 3 years. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I'm super happy you took the time off, so that's great. There is a feature now on LinkedIn where you can add gaps of like you can like say that you took time off in your experience section. So you might want to check that out. But honestly, I feel like it's becoming more normalized to have gaps. And I had this conversation with my friend the other day and was just asking her about career gaps and just what she thought. And she was letting me know, she's like, oh, as a hiring manager, I actually like seeing career gaps because it shows
Hmm.
that the person took time off and they're not coming into this new job burnt out already and they're coming in fresh. So I thought that was an interesting perspective and kind of showed that maybe career gaps aren't something to necessarily shy away from and you kind of lean into it and show that you take care of yourself, which I think is super important. So yeah, that's how I would approach it. Maybe you add it in the experience section. Maybe you even get creative with it. I don't know what you did during your time off. Maybe you learned a new skill or I don't know, built something on the side. You could add that as well during that time off. But yeah, nothing to shy away from, I don't think.
Yeah, I love that. Someone asked, do you know if employers prefer a lengthy, more detailed bio or short, sweet, and straight to the point kind of bio?
Mhm. I mean, if I was hiring someone, I would want a lengthier one. And I think you just put yourself in their shoes. If you're trying to learn about someone, like short and sweet, I'm not really sure. I mean, short and sweet's always great, right? But like how you're not sharing as much as you can about yourself. And if they're really interested in you and they're taking the time to go to your profile, it's probably because they want to learn more. So being able to just expand and share a little bit more, I think is a good idea. And again, like I mentioned before, the keywords are important, so you still need to have those in there if you want to be discovered.
I love that. Okay. We had a question here that came in. I had a DM here, and someone asked, they said they have 20 years of experience in training and writing, but their most recent role was in marketing. Unfortunately, it only lasted 6 months before the company closed. And now this person seems to be getting recruiters reaching out for marketing roles, but that's not really what they're interested in much now because of the pay, lack of experience. How do I highlight my experiences in other areas on LinkedIn without deleting the last role entirely?
Um, posting content on the actual area that you want to be going into, I think is helpful. I think if there's a way, I don't know like what exactly it sounds like they want to go back into like more writing, but like that experience, like if you end your marketing experience and put something with a more current date or something you're presently doing, like whether it's like writing a blog or just a project that you're working on yourself, that will move higher up. So that helps reorder things a bit. And then I would also, take advantage of different sections of your profile. So, like one thing we didn't talk about was the featured section. The featured section, you can add, multiple things, rich media, LinkedIn posts that you've written, articles, etc. So choose those that are relevant and like show the work of the role that you want to do. So like don't show any of your marketing stuff, but show whatever you did in the past role, and highlight that. And again, it's about telling that consistent story. So like through your about, through your headline, through the skills, through the recommendations, highlight again what it is that you are trying to go after.
I love that. I love that. Um, it's a great question here. And also, I noticed a raised hand. If you could feel free to use the chat feature for this format, we take the questions in the chat box. So thank you so much. I'd love to hear from you. I love this. How much of our personal life should we share, or should it really just be more professional sharing platform?
Yeah, we alluded to this earlier, but I think
Yeah.
like sharing more personal things is not a bad thing. I think, you'll see a lot of people posting about their kids or their family. You'll see people, I just connected with this person the other day who in his headline, he talks about how he loves jujitsu, for example. And then we had something to talk about because my fiance is very into jujitsu. And then, like in my about section, I have a line at the end that says I do Muay Thai and and I take voice lessons and I love eating out at restaurants in SF. So I think adding these little personal touches is a really great thing. Now it's not going to be like a Facebook, don't get that personal, like it's still a professional platform. But I think kind of opening yourself up a little bit, like really like the genuine stories and the vulnerability posts, like those do really well because you're just showing yourself, showing another side of you. So I wouldn't shy away from that if that's something you're thinking about doing.
I love that. Here's a little nitty gritty question, which I love. Do you recommend third person or first person voice for a LinkedIn profile summary?
I like first person, just for that same reason before. Like we're trying to make it more personal. We're trying to feel like connected to the person, or we want the person on the other side to feel connected to us. So I like to go first person.
I love that. I love that. Oh, here's a great one. So, what is your advice for someone with a long work history of how much to list and how? And we alluded to this, like how much detail we go into it. So, if you have like, 40 years of experience in something, how do we compile that in the best way that's digestible, but also people can get a sense?
Yeah, I think it depends what you want to highlight. And so like I mentioned before, when LinkedIn first came out, I was like, I'm going to put every single thing I've ever done on here. And it was only, I don't even know how long it was ago, hopefully like at least a few years ago, where I kind of revisited my LinkedIn and I was like, oh, this like summer role at like a jean store where I was like an associate. I don't even like remember what I did there. Like I should probably take this off. It doesn't really tell us clear story. It doesn't like contribute anything, and it's just like, why is this there? So if you have things like that, like remove it. Like you don't need to include every single thing that you've ever done in your work history. But like if you've worked for 40 years and you've worked at a bunch of great companies and you've shown like, you know, your progression and how you've been able to start from like associate to like a VP level or like a CEO, or I don't know, you know, where you are now, but to be able to show that, like I think it's more than okay to include everything that you need to kind of to show that and to show that you are a really experienced professional.
Love all of this. Oh, here's a good one. How do we determine job offers that are actually scams, phishing, all of that stuff? What are some red flags we should keep our
Yeah, oh
eye
my gosh, I can't believe this is a trend that's happening. It's like so upsetting. I can't believe
on?
like people are like that this is happening. So first of all, if this has happened to you, you know, sorry, that's like horrible. What I like to say is to just do your due diligence and do some research. So I know people have said, like, oh, the recruiter has added me and it looks like they have a complete profile, but do you have any connections in common? When you look at the company page, like how many people are working at the company? Um, I think like really trying to find a mutual connection is going to like who you can actually like reach out and ask to if you think something fishy is going on is going to be the ideal. I think also of a process seems too easy. And then, of course, if they ask you for sensitive information that a job wouldn't normally ask for, or they're asking you to like purchase things for them and then they'll reimburse you, like those are like more obvious red flags. But I think kind of digging in, doing your research, and trying to find that mutual trusted connection who you can ask, is this legit? I think is probably the best way.
Yeah, it is. I could really feel my heart goes out to your frustration as well as someone that's so invested in this and has been part of the
Yeah.
LinkedIn team. That's just it's a shame, isn't it?
I know, yeah. It's like it's so sad that people are trying to take advantage of other people like that.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. And again, I also second if this has happened to you, I'm so sorry. That's just absolutely awful. Okay, friends, so we have just a few minutes left. So if you have any last burning desire questions for this round, feel free to drop them in the chat. This is your time. If not now, when? All we have is right now, friends. So, oh, we got another one in the chat here. If you have a small business which is now on hiatus, how do you mention that on LinkedIn?
I would put a note in the description of the experience. So you might just put a line at the top, like on hiatus from, you know, whatever the dates are. I don't know like what the business is. I don't know if it's actually necessary to mention the hiatus unless it's like a super significant period of time. But even then, I don't know if it's to stop people from reaching out, then yeah, sure, put it on. I don't know otherwise if you really need to, honestly.
Thank you. Francis is getting some compliments in the chat. He thanks you very much. You are such a ham. Boy, I love this little thing so much. It really just makes working on LinkedIn just even that much easier, right, Francis? We can just enjoy our time together. Okay, so Lorraine, we keep getting so many great questions, and I hope we get a few more, but I don't think we're going to get to all of them. So you and I were talking before, and we're like, oh my gosh, there's so many questions. There's hundreds of people on this call. There's who knows how many people are going to watch the replay. What are we going to do about it, Lorraine? Do you
We
think
are
maybe?
coming back for part two.
Yes. So we are going to do another session. We're going to send all those more. Yes, +1, +2, +3, fire in the chat here. We are going to do another session, and we're so lucky that Lorraine is going to come back and we're going to do another one. And I believe it's February 1st. Is that what we were
February
saying?
1st,
Yes.
12 p.m. PT.
Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah,
keep
so keep
your
an eye
eye
out
out
for
for
that email.
that. And that will also follow up, and we'll post that in the follow-up. You're going to get a link in a few days of this chat with the video recording. We're also going to have that. You'll have access to all of Lorraine's resources. I also recommend here, you could screenshot the side of her screen right here. If you want to follow this, or you can scan the QR code. There's so many great stuff there. Lorraine, is there anything in these last couple minutes that you would like to touch on as well? Maybe any questions I didn't think to ask or that I missed? And then also, I'd love for you to give us the rundown of the best way to stay connected with you.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's so many questions we can we can still answer. Thank you everyone for submitting them. There were so many great ones. I was like so happy reading through all of them, and hopefully, you got your answer to your question today if you're here live. I would just, reemphasize again like how powerful LinkedIn can be, and I'm so happy that you're all here and wanting to learn and wanting to, not just improve your profile, but really like build that presence and build that brand so that you can have more visibility, more flexibility in your career, which Hunter, as you said before, that's the dream, right? So whether you're in corporate or whether you're doing something on your own, like LinkedIn is just the perfect place to be able to grow your career, either path you take. I hope this was helpful for you today. Yes, I'll run through some of these things very quickly. So thank you to my friends at TopMate. They are giving 15% off for the first 20 people who book a coaching session with me, and you'll see the updated pricing when you check out. So, if you want to have a more of a one-on-one chat or like a specific use case that you want to talk through, I'm very happy to help you with that. I have a weekly newsletter that you can subscribe to at lorrainekaylee.com/newsletter. And I'm all about sharing quick, actionable tips around standing out and, again, that career visibility and flexibility. So if you are interested in just hearing more tips and advice, and again, quick and easy, I don't like to, take up, our inboxes are precious, so I don't want to, make you read like a full-on newsletter, but feel free to subscribe there. And then, of course, you can follow me on LinkedIn by scanning that QR code. And I'm actually just going to send these links through quickly in the chat as well, so you have it in case you can't see it on my screen. But this was a wonderful session. Thank you, everyone, for all your questions.
Yes, thank you so much, friends. So let's hear a digital round of applause for Lorraine Lee. So fantastic. Thank you so much for making the time today. I learned a bunch of new things. I loved all the questions as well. Thank you for your participation, friends. And we will see you back on February 1st at noon PT. Check out your inboxes for that link. I thank you. And of course, Francis, thanks you so much for today. And we hope to see you soon. Lorraine, thank you again.
Thank you, everyone.